Please do note that this first story may disturb sensitive viewers. Blood, sweat, saliva and semen. This is some of the crucial DNA evidence that police must collect from a victim after a rape or sexual assault is committed. Now, critical to this is a sexual assault evidence kit, or a rape kit as it's commonly known. But it seems there's a shortage across most police stations in South Africa. Here's Claire Mawisa.
In South Africa, sexual offences are investigated by an elite group of dedicated police detectives known as the FCS. FCS stands for Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences.
The FCS is a specialized investigation unit with special focus on crimes against women and children.
FCS head Major General Bafana Linda made his name by catching Fanuel Khumalo, the child serial rapist who preyed on more than 40 girls in the early 2000s.
Policing crimes against women and children is a difficult policing. Those are crimes within the dark alleys. Normally there's no eyewitness. Our FCS is like our FBI within this country.
These detectives are trained to treat sexual assault victims sensitively during the reporting process, collecting evidence and testifying in court. Although this should give the victim the best chance of seeing justice done, there is a nationwide shortage of the rape kits, essential for gathering evidence. There is no way to quantify how many rapists have slipped through the system because the DNA evidence didn't hold up in court. A sexual assault kit like this can be the difference between somebody being convicted or walking away scot-free.
There's units in the whole country that don't have any rape kits.
Out of fear of reprisal, FCS officer Thabo is hiding his identity to expose this critical shortage. Carte Blanche confirmed his story with other FCS officers and sexual crime prosecutors. As rape kits are in such short supply, we didn't want to open one. Instead, this cell phone footage shows an instruction manual illustrating the package of tools used to forensically examine a victim for traces of their attacker, including combs for hairs and fibers and swabs for fluid.
We are struggling to get kits now for the past year, especially the buccal sample to compare the DNA that was found on the victim with a suspect. So with each and every suspect, we use 2 buccal samples. One is for comparison and the other one is for confirmation.
Parliament declared this a crisis last year, naming the shortages of rape kits as well as buccal swab kits crippling. And it only got worse this year, with less than 20% of police stations having rape kits.
In February this year, we have 80% of our police stations with 0 rape kits. Rape kits for children are non-existent in 82% of police stations.
DA Shadow Minister for Police, Andrew Whitfield, sits on the police's portfolio committee.
It is a national crisis. We cannot allow men and women and children who are sexually abused to arrive at police stations or simply not be able to get justice served on the perpetrators of those horrific crimes.
If there are no sexual assault kits, police say that there are other ways of gathering evidence, like taking blood samples. But our sources say that there are no alternatives for taking semen.
We don't turn away victims. When kits are not available, we collect as much of the clothing and stuff, and then we send it to the forensic lab.
Is that as good as taking a DNA sample?
Taking a sample from the victim is more effective than just the fluid on the clothes. And if you don't have the DNA, it makes the case very difficult in court.
If the suspect is known, the police are required to take their DNA with a buccal swab for our DNA database.
But in the absence of them, we've got an alternative. We take the suspect to the doctor to draw blood and give us the same results what we have from the laboratory.
You can draw blood of the suspect, but it seems that the kits are also non-existent in the service.
How important are those rape kits?
It is critical. Everything that the doctor is observing is recording, which form part of the evidence in court.
How do they then proceed with gathering of evidence if a victim finds out or is told that there is no rape kit?
When one area don't have, they normally talk to each other in the area to say who's got, and we borrow each other. And it's true they don't have, but it does not mean that the work won't continue.
How long am I waiting for you to get a kit to me?
especially in the rural areas. You wait 5 or 6 hours.
And what effect does that have on the victim?
It causes a lot of secondary trauma for the victim. Women just want to go and wash. Now she has to sit there for hours in that filthy semen.
I can't imagine what it must be like to be a rape victim waiting for one of these packs in the perpetrator's blood, sweat, and semen. The secondary trauma, unimaginable.
And this lack of evidence can destroy a case. Monique Stradum is the founder of NPO Matla Abana, which addresses the grey areas in the child protection system.
The problem now is the ages of the kids are becoming younger. So that kid cannot testify in court. So they really need to rely on the DNA evidence.
Stradum witnessed the trauma of rape as one of 21 hostages taken for 127 days by a terrorist group in the Philippines in 2000.
So I wasn't raped, I was spared that, but some of the people in our group were raped. And I remember that the fear of being raped was actually bigger than the fear of being killed.
So who's to blame for the shortage of these essential forensic tools? It boils down to the tender process.
A read-through of multiple meeting minutes in Parliament shows that the tenders for sexual assault and buccal swab kits has gone out repeatedly. Yet, the Bid Adjudication Committee is yet to tell anyone what the hold-up with awarding them is.
DNA Project founder Vanessa Lynch helped change the law, making it mandatory for DNA to be taken from all arrested persons to build a forensic database for the police.
When the supply chain department needs to order kits, they rely on the Bid Adjudication Committee to ensure that the bids meet the specifications which are written by the Forensic Science Laboratory. They also rely on Treasury to provide them with the funding. They don't realise that actually the length of time that it takes for each of those different departments to do the work actually has a knock-on effect. By the time an order is finally placed, the kits may have already run out. There's a big gap in the middle. And that really is your victim, isn't it?
There were 2 unsuccessful bids at one point, as well as one bid that ultimately was found to be successful, but couldn't be awarded the tender because they were caught up in another corruption scandal.
But no one knows why the Bid Adjudication Committee has failed to award the tender.
There is a fundamental element of secrecy when it comes to the bid adjudication committees. So what we'll be calling for in Parliament going forward is making those bid adjudication committees open to the public.
Lynch says Parliament could declare an emergency and fast-track the supply of rape kits.
Parliament needs to get involved to say, you have to make a decision.
Would it not be an optimal situation if we never ran short of the kits?
It is for everyone's wish that you have everything, but you must remember that the issue of procurement, it involves millions. The processes that are in place have to be followed.
Thabo says budget allocation for the 185 FCS units nationwide is limited.
Every unit has a budget allocated for a financial year. 80% goes towards your vehicle, but you still need stationery and your kits. Everything that your office needs to run smoothly.
It remains to be seen how smooth things will run after Treasury cut the police's budget by 6 billion rands in July.
The fact that we are so under-resourced in policing, with 64,000 officers short of the UN standard policing ratio.
Hunting down rapists can be dangerous work, says FCS officer Philip Maluleka.
When we applied to be police officers, we knew that we have to run towards the danger than running away from danger.
His partner, Constable Dumisani Chabalala, fell victim to the police's lack of resources in July. With no other officers available for backup, he tracked down an alleged rapist and was shot dead by the suspect.
He was a very good guy. That's what I can tell you. He was a very good guy. The loss that I'm feeling now is not just of a colleague. It's of a person that
FCS officers take the risk of the job knowing they can at least get justice for vulnerable victims, but without resources and rape kits, they may take the risk in vain.
Our victims are special to us. Now there's only a handful of FCS investigators, and at the end of the day, we don't turn anyone away.
You have compassion fatigue, and that's what happens when they see the cases that they see, and they see really horrific things.
You have to deal with very traumatized victims, because when you get to a scene of crime or when you're attending to a victim, they need to feel a refuge, safe with you.
If one rape victim leaves a rape crisis centre and they haven't had the chance to have evidence collected, one person, that's a crisis.